Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast. And today we start with a song by Sue Casson called Night Visitors.
Nightfall, dusk draws its veil across a restless day. Masks all, save formless fears, routinely shut away. Dark hours subdue the waking mind's essay, disturb strange powers. Thoughts rise to live in shadow play. Soundless, the blind advance of half-remembered shapes. Boundless, no wall, no door, and yet there's no escape. Down deep, where none can trammel fancy's flight, whilst dreamers sleep. Thoughts rise, breathe day into the night. Breathe day into the night. Daybreak. Night visions fade in the attendant dawn. Heartache. The lingering trace of shaded worlds forlorn. Mute cries lament the sleeping vision's plight. Their echoes rise, arcane, to taint the day with night. Twilight, half-hidden place of possibility. Day, night, somewhere between lies the reality. Dream on amidst the tunnels of the mind. Dark shades live on. Life gone, will they be left behind? Will they be left behind?
Hello and welcome to Musical Talk. I'm Thos Ribbits, the bald man who loves the fringe. And yes, it's that time of year again, because August sees the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in all its glory, running this year from the 1st to the 27th of August. That's the 3 weeks running up to and including the bank holiday weekend. And as you know, it's my favourite time of the year, a chance to see hundreds of new and old musicals. And if you like musicals, and honestly, what are you doing listening to this podcast if you don't, then trying to get to Edinburgh must be something that you should try and do at least once in your lifetime. Or try and do it, as I do, once a year. Which brings us on to today's programme. You've just heard a piece of music sung by Sue Casson with John Jansen at the piano called Night Visitors. It's a song that Sue, who you may remember as the writer of The Happy Prince, which we spoke about last year, is taking to Edinburgh in her brand new show. It's called Albion Forlorn. And so today you're going to be hearing an Edinburgh Festival Fringe preview. So what is Albion Forlorn about? Well, it describes itself as a torch song for the state we're in. And it's a cabaret stroke review about broken ideals and the follies of society today. Now that sounds a little bit heavy perhaps, but the show, which has music and lyrics by Sue Casson and is conceived and directed by Tom Blackmore, promises to be, I think, one of the most intellectually stimulating as well as musically enjoyable shows at the Fringe this year. And if The Happy Prince is anything to go by, it'd be a melodic delight, as well as being clever and unexpectedly searing, I think. Well, in a minute we'll hear a full interview with Sue about the show, and also a bit more about the success of The Happy Prince, which made its way on tour last year to some unusual places, as we'll hear. But Sue has also very kindly said that we can play one or two of the songs which you can hear if you come to see Albion Forlorn. So now, let's hear a song called I Believe. It's sung by Abigail Blackmore, Sue Casson, John Merriman, Delroy Atkinson and Lawrence Taylor, with Sue Casson at the piano. And it's a song that will be mentioned in the interview, so listen carefully to the lyrics. And after that, listen to a lovely conversation I had with Sue Casson herself about this fantastic new Edinburgh show, Albion Forlorn.
I believe in my beliefs. It's my belief that my beliefs are truer far than your beliefs, or what you think are your beliefs. And I believe that your beliefs are threatening to my beliefs, so I'll defend the true beliefs against your dangerous beliefs. Yes, I'm defending my beliefs and all who share the same beliefs against the threat of your beliefs and all who share your false beliefs. And I will lie for my beliefs to quell the cry of your beliefs. And I will die for my beliefs and you will die for mine.
When fear unfolds its carrion wings and hovers in my cell, and my interrogator brings the implements of hell, when I sit tied up in a chair exposed to every eye, electrodes in my pubic hair, I sometimes wonder why the nations of the world who signed fine words on human rights seem truly not to mind what happens on dark nights. Bow down, bow down, bow down, blasphemers and infidels, bow down, the doctrines criminals, bow down, when God says snakes or what I think from the top, your beliefs and scream. I believe that, but no your beliefs are threatening to my beliefs, so I'll defend the true beliefs against your dangerous beliefs. Yes, I'm defending my beliefs and all who share the same beliefs against the threat of your beliefs and all who share your false beliefs. And I will lie for my beliefs to quell the cry of your beliefs. And I will die for my beliefs and you will die for mine.
No sun, no stars, no wind, no rain, life measured by a callous chain. No air to breathe, no space, no light, no dawn, no dusk, no day, just night. No exercise, no room to move, the day set in a rigid groove. No friendly face, no friendly voice, no decisions, and no choice.
I died, my lungs on fire with poison gas.
I died, the necklace smoking round my throat. I died, caught in machine guns' random spray, for I and mine were weakened in the way.
I cried for justice in the killings of.
I
Defend the true beliefs against your dangerous beliefs. Yes,
There's no great faith in
defending my
democracy.
beliefs, and only a brand of autocracy. No room for debate, for reasons of state, and power is from above. Oppression is the only reality. There's just no room for morality. I will die for my beliefs, and you will die for mine. Blasphemers and infidels, bow down, adulterous criminals, bow down, your beliefs on what I think of your beliefs, and I believe that your beliefs are threatening to my beliefs, so I'll defend the true beliefs against your dangerous beliefs. Yes, there's no great faith in democracy, and only a brand of theocracy, against the threat of your beliefs, and all who share your false beliefs. Oppression is the only reality. Well, there's just no room for morality, and I will die for my beliefs, and you will die for mine. You will die for mine. You will die for mine.
Musical talk. Sue, how wonderful to see you again here.
It's a great pleasure.
And I know that there's much success that you've had since we last spoke about The Happy Prince, which was your last glittering show, if I may say. And we'll touch on that a little bit later in the conversation. But even more delightful to speak to you is the fact that I know you've got a new show looming.
It is true.
Which is going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe
Yes.
this year. And it's this I really want to probe you upon, if I may say. And now it's got a great title. It's called Albion Forlorn.
Yes.
Which I just think is sort of almost elegiac in itself already. There's something wonderful about that. Clearly about Britain or England in some way. But how did such a thoughtful and symbolic title come to be?
It came to be in a number of ways, because when we started on this project, we were looking to put together some of the material that I've written over the last, say, 20 years, which reflect sort of the things that have been going on in sort of an internal as well as an external way in England. And so by putting them in a context of England and what has been going on at that time, it seemed like a good framework for what is essentially a staged cabaret, which is what Albion Forlorn is going to be. And therefore we were looking for a name that gave us a sense of overbearing Englishness that comes from the past. And that's why we settled on Albion, because Peter Ackroyd has already made it famous in his book of the same name, and it has a resonance with a mythical great country.
But this is a mythicism beyond nostalgia, isn't it? It's actually
it is.
It's almost a platonic ideal of what Englishness and England is.
I think
right?
so. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yes, you put it very well. I think it is that sense of. It's not a lost country in the sense that it ever existed like that, but it's lost in the sense that people hark back to it thinking that ideals were encapsulated in that landscape, to which we still aspire.
And which have somehow, perhaps, we may aspire to them, but it's difficult to know where they are and how they might be achieved as well.
Yes, yeah, I think that's true.
But it's coupled, this word Albion, which in itself it's a synonym, but not quite, for England in particular, rather than Great Britain, but can work in all directions.
Yes.
But as you say, captures a philosophy almost more than not even a geopolitical circumstance, but a set of ideals.
Yes.
But to couple that with the word forlorn,
yes,
is a masterpiece. I mean, it's a masterstroke, if I may say, because I mean, to me, it sums up sort of Paradise Lost and that kind of pithiness. But it's
very much meant.
But
yes.
it's one of those. I think of it as an illuminated word.
Yes.
Because it's not just plain old sadness or crossness. It's
bereftness.
It's bereftness. Yes, and that's the splendid word for it. And one can be bereft in all different directions.
Yes.
Sadly.
Yes.
So the coupling.
The coupling is about the state. I mean, the byline for the show that we've chosen is a torch song for the state we're in, and I think that politically, everybody would agree we're in a very lost situation. I think that many people are not very engaged politically, and there are all sorts of things about which people are unhappy in this country that may not be being given a voice. This isn't a political show with a big P like that.
Not partisan in terms of party.
No, it's about the concerns that people have and the internal nature of how they're addressed as much as anything. There isn't a solution offered because I think that would be crass in a way. You can't say, if we do this. Yes, and also if we do this, then it'll all be all right again is obviously rubbish. But I think that examining why one feels like that, what are the things that have led us to this point, what are the feelings, that's at the central backbone of the show.
To understand one's past and one's past path allows one to navigate the future, even if you don't necessarily know where you're heading.
Sounds like a quotation.
It isn't, but well, if people want to now start using it, I'm very... Yes, or my other name, Anon, which is how I shall be remembered by history, I'm sure. Now, you've said quite interestingly, very interestingly, that this in some ways is reflects and draws from your own catalogue of observationary songs. Is that fair? I mean, let's lay this out straight. Well, last time we spoke, you told me that you have, for many years, as well as writing excellent shows like The Happy Prince, you've written standalone songs for cabaret environments.
Absolutely, yes. And over those years, a number of concerns have sprung up. I mean, the minute I say what we've been doing in the last 20 years, you'll think, how on earth are they all going to be in the show? And the answer is that they're not. It's really that sometimes some of the areas that one has touched upon, because of the personal way in which they've been addressed, have a place in this show that is unconnected to their original setting. Now, standalone cabaret songs often come from a feeling or a thought anyway. So, and some of the songs that we have in here, like Night Visitors, have never really been sort of heard widely because it was written for a project that never got off the ground.
But it touches a truth,
but
nonetheless.
Yes, it's a mysterious sort of exploring of, sort of dark forces and how the dark forces tend to triumph at night, actually, and come through into your thoughts, and sometimes with a really powerful nightmare or dream. I mean, those thoughts and feelings are with you all day.
If you wake up suddenly, yes.
Or not. I think if you've had a particularly powerful image in a dream, it doesn't even have to be a sudden awakening.
Oh, really?
I think that you can have been so engaged in your subterranean life that
what
actually...
What a beautiful phrase, by the way.
that it comes out in the next day. And I don't mean in a way that the same things happen, because obviously they don't. It's like another motor going on underneath the way that you're responding to the day. And you're seeing things in the day that you might not have seen had you not had that dream.
Oh, so it casts a dark light on the lighter parts of one's life.
Exactly, yes. Because it's there, you see. It's always underneath. It's not the dark forces, it makes it sound like Star Wars, but you know what I mean.
Or MI5. So that's one song. And when was that originally written? I mean, this gives an example of,
That was from the earlier part of this, going back, really. So this was before I had children, which is obviously a big, sort of change when you have children. Then another one that is a standalone song, but actually was written in response to an Egyptian dig that we were putting together a cabaret about, which came to be about whether you found the treasure. And we were thinking, well, is it more important to find the treasure, like if you're Lord Carnarvon, and then you get all, whether the curse exists or not, that was the starting point. But it was the idea of whether, if you get the treasure and you've got the one thing, whether that isn't your life over anyway, because nothing can ever exceed that moment.
Well, it's just the question, what's the second thing that Lord Carnarvon did?
Exactly.
And nobody knows. I've got even better. What's the second thing that John Logie Baird did? Because obviously he's the inventor of television.
Exactly, yes.
Did you know he's also the inventor of the thermal sock? It's true.
I'm not surprised he played that one down.
But yes, I accept the point. Yes, you're right. If you peak too soon, what do prime ministers do after they've been prime minister?
Yes.
Perilously little worth.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yes, of course.
because either you get the thing that you've wanted all your life and then there's nothing more, or you never get it, but you're always in anticipation of getting it.
Yes.
Travelling, hopefully.
It's better than to arrive, isn't
Exactly.
it? So they say.
So that song was about that. Well, although I wrote it in response to Egypt, in fact, that sense of wanting and satisfaction is at the heart of Albion Forlorn.
And so many people's real lives as well.
Yes.
A lot of people run scared of actually... Sometimes people can get what they want, but then turn away from it at the last moment.
Yes.
Because, as you say, the anticipation is more than the achievement.
Yes.
So you've got this, large selection catalogue of songs. I mean, and we were talking last time we spoke about the fact that you used to set satirical, proper political satirical poems by
Simon Ray. Well, one of those is in there too. In fact, a couple of those are in there because we did a show at the Fringe in 1996 called Requiem at the Café Royal. In that, there was a piece that he'd written about, I suppose at that time it must have been the Ayatollah Khomeini,
Yes.
and everybody's fear of how his beliefs were intransigent. We'd probably just had the fatwa with Salman Rushdie.
Oh, indeed, yes. That 90s scare about Iranian fundamentalism,
exactly.
as it was perceived.
Yes. And so Simon wrote this sort of cyclical, repetitive, almost ritualistic poem of I believe in my beliefs.
Yes.
And we sort of set that and then put all these sort of things over the top of it. It's very sort of many layered.
Yes.
But that sense, although that particular Iranian fundamentalism fear has passed,
Yes.
there is still this sense of standoffishness about other people's beliefs and worrying about how they're going to encroach on your beliefs, because of course one person's human rights might very well encroach on somebody else's.
Well, in a way, certainly in the West, it's almost more encroaching now from several directions, because the fear is probably greater than there was in the 90s. There was this fear of one place doing it, whereas now actually the geopolitical is less
Yes.
important, in the sense that it's not about a place, but there's a much greater fear, rightly or wrongly. I'm not making any judgment here, but it's been the backbone of the so-called war on terror.
Yes.
And has persisted beyond it.
Yes.
Yes. So this is a sad case of political comment and not quite satire, but observation.
Yes.
Remaining true and ringing true
Yes,
now.
I mean the sense of beliefs, whether and it was never sort of particularly mentioned what the beliefs were
No.
in that song. That sense of fear, which is very driving in that particular song, is another, sort of factor in that sort of melting pot of feelings at the centre of Albion. But then on the other hand, Simon and I were working together on a sort of masque based on the myth of Persephone.
Oh, jolly good.
Which we've been working on over a number of years, and which has actually, apart from being at the Arcola and for their Grimeborn series a few years ago, hasn't really seen the light of day. And we've taken a song from that Persephone sings when she's being taken down to Hades, about it's that dichotomy again of not being able to die because she's immortal, but feeling like she's dying inside because she can't see the sky, she can't see all the beautiful flowers and fields of nature.
So it's yes, I know it's not oblivion. It's is continual sadness worse than oblivion?
Yes.
Almost, yes. Gosh.
Yes.
These are quite heavy questions.
And doesn't it sound
But
like
that's
a
good.
laugh?
Yes. Here's a question. I mean, how long is the show?
It's about an hour and 10.
Now, it is, for the most part, I'm going to use the word bittersweet very roughly to describe the sense that I'm getting from it in terms of description, although there isn't one word that's going to cover it all.
Yes.
And forlorn might be the best one to use.
Yes.
And I notice you have. But are there lighter moments in it to gild, to what did Gilbert say, to sweeten the bitter pill or something like that?
I think yes. Yes, there are. Of course there are.
But it's not a laugh riot.
No, I think one of the things about it is that often when you write things like this, I mean, there are some which are very torch song, slow ballad numbers, but in amongst it there are also some quite driving and catchy melody.
Yes.
One is going to come out toe-tapping one's depression.
Oh, really? That's my favourite kind of depression. So when someone says, "Oh, give me a break," you give a tap break, presumably.
There'll be lots of sort of moments like that, and hummable tunes. You see, the thing about the hummable tunes is very often people don't clock what it is you're saying in the lyric. So hopefully this will give enough space for people to be able to clock what's in the lyric, but also not to be too overwhelmed by it, for it to plant a seed and then to enjoy the experience.
And also, I must say that it's ridiculous to say that sadness is without its humour. Now, that seems an odd thing to say, but it's true, isn't it? I mean, we even talk of gallows humour. I'm not saying that is or isn't in there, but, that is... When the worst is happening, when the skies are falling in, someone's going to make a joke about being a lovely day, or something. Even if it's something cheap and easy
British,
like that.
Isn't it?
It is absolutely. Yes. Absolutely, it's the Blitz spirit.
It's the Blitz spirit. Yes,
all over again.
London pride.
Absolutely. Oh,
yes.
Well, it was handed down to us. So, have there been any songs from your catalogue you have thought actually this won't fit because it's too specific?
I mean, it's very because Tom has been shaping this. Tom Blackmore, he's really looked through the catalogue. He knows it very well, and he has been the one who has been saying, I'll use that, I won't use that. There are whole tranches that I might have used of Requiem, but he said, well, I don't want it to be so specific as that, and I think it would be nice to give this idea an airing, and this one is not appropriate because it's not making the points that I want to make. So
right, okay. Now, Tom's the writer of The Happy Prince as well, isn't he? So he's a long-term collaborator.
Yes.
I think it's interesting to have more than one person involved in something like this, so that someone can say, I think this one does make a point, and someone might say, well, I think that this one makes the point better. It's that creative friction almost.
Yes.
And not in a negative way, I mean in a positive way to draw something from it.
I mean, Tom has a very light touch and a very economical way of expressing ideas, which worked brilliantly when we did Tutankhamun All Wrapped Up. Yeah. Because he was taking on big ideas.
Which is an Egyptian cabaret.
Which was telling the story, really, of Carnarvon and Carter finding the tomb in the Valley of the Kings. But there was a lot of information in that was entertaining to know, as well as the sort of the songs themselves. And so Albion is really a more dramatised version of that economy of thought and idea and interplay.
An economy of thought sits very comfortably with your sort of purity of musical line, if I may say. I mean, The Happy Prince... Well, no, seriously, The Happy Prince has... innocence is the wrong word. It does have innocence in it, but actually it's also very sophisticated. But there's a purity of line. It's the only description I can think for it, which I think is tied in absolutely with your Englishness, which we've discussed before. And what's going to be more English than a show called Albion Forlorn?
Yes.
It ties in with so many of your... the tropes that you like to explore and have explored and continue to explore.
It's true.
Have you written anything new for it?
Yes.
And do you find that you're trapped by your context, or do you find that actually it's invigorating, that,
I find it quite liberating because all these sort of ingredients have been rag-bagged together, but somehow we have to make it thematic, make it come together. Yes. And at the moment, I'm working on the Albion Forlorn song that will pull those strands.
Oh, your leitmotif.
My leitmotif.
The framework, yes.
Yes, that I hope will, sort of weave through and make it work as a piece.
Is it going to be sung through, or will there be conversation?
No, there will be
moments
of dialogue and also, sort of speeches.
And who will we see when we go to see it in Edinburgh? Is it just you alone, or?
It's no. The whole thing about this was that I still find it quite difficult just being at a piano singing a song. I mean, purely from the point of view of, quite apart from the focus just being on you singing and there being no safety net. I like the idea.
It's all piano, is it?
They generally are. Actually, I've just written a song about how I wish I'd play guitar, which seems sort of much more direct somehow. So you need those other strands of music coming through, and the delight of having a larger cast is that you can have different ideas coming through, different song lines coming through, different voices. It becomes a much sort of polyphonic whole, and that is something that I'm much more drawn to than just being a person at a piano.
It also, if you don't mind me saying, just theatrically allows an audience to appreciate the jump from one idea to another idea.
I hope
if
so.
It's not coming, I mean, there's nothing wrong with one person singing, but
No.
if one person singing, I'm singing a song about happiness, now I'm singing a song about
Yes.
sadness, now I'm singing a song about having a broken heart, it can be quite difficult
Yes.
to make the transition.
Yes.
Whereas actually, if you move from one to another to a third to a, yes, I agree with you absolutely. So it's good theatrical positioning, because
Yes.
people sometimes forget that cabaret is more than just somebody singing a song, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, and you know, forgive me, you're a vastly established, experienced, talented cabaret performer.
Yeah, more.
but it's true. And so you know that it's about engagement and capturing your audience, and then being able to forge a relationship with the audience, which
Yes.
sometimes one person singing isn't. It's somebody what is a passive relationship for the audience. They watch. So how do you do that?
Well, there's one thing about being able to sing at a piano with an audience, which is that you can fix them with your beady eye. And it was something that I started to do when I was playing the ships to try and get my equity card years ago, because
This is cruise ships and things like that.
yes,
Yeah, it is.
because you'd have people sitting there not really wanting to listen to the person in the corner, or just kind of taking it for granted, which over a period of time in the evening is quite exasperating, and I would actually get quite cross in a passive way.
Yes. British
and
way.
I think that if you can engage people by making them feel that you are singing to them, and that can work in a good way. I mean, that's mostly what you're doing. You're not really, sort of
You're not forcing it on them.
No, but if people are there and they're listening, then they need to know that they're being addressed, and that's one good thing
It's
about
for
cabaret.
their benefit, and I mean it in that.
Yes.
No, yeah,
You
but-
will enjoy this.
But I don't
it's
mean that.
good for you.
But there is the patronising interpretation. But for their benefit is actually, that there is something beneficial to be had, rather than I think this is good for you.
Yes.
That they may agree or they may not agree, but they'll only get to that position by engaging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is the upside of cabaret, is that is something that's denied you in a theatrical setting, because you are actually forming a drama and forming an alternative reality, rather than that. Some people do it so much better than I do. That engagement with the audience, being able to talk to the audience. That's the bit where I fall down.
Do you really think so?
Yes. I think, at its best, if somebody can sort of do some off-the-cuff stories to link a song, and then make them really know what kind of a person you are, which I can't do. But
I think you hide your lights under a bushel, if I may be so bold.
well, I wish it were true.
I'm removing the bushel now.
That is why I love the theatrical setting, because then I can take on another persona and be part of something bigger, so that the song becomes the thing.
I'm going to argue with you now, if you don't mind. I'm sorry. Let's do this
Say.
politely. Because I tell you why I'm not sure I agree with your very self-deprecating position here. Because there's actually a song on the soundtrack of the score of The Happy Prince, in the newer version,
Yes.
recorded for 2012,
Yes.
where you are playing the narrator,
Yes.
and you do this lovely thing where you just... I can bring it to mind immediately. It's where you're explaining something, and then there's a tiny little beat, and you go, encore, and then there's you are your own Greek chorus almost. You say something, and then you take a different character, although it's the same character playing the different
Stand
character.
outside yourself.
Yes, exactly, and that comes across really brilliantly in just an audio recording. So if you can do that on an audio recording in actually what is a dramatic narrative, imagine what you must be able to do in a cabaret. I have it. QED. Thank you very much. I'll take my money and go now. Right, I'm not going to... Clearly, your silence is telling me that there's no answer to that. Now, Tom said something very interesting before we were recording, actually. He was here earlier, which is that this is not a show that's being written for Edinburgh. It's a show that's being written at Edinburgh, and that is a fantastic difference.
Yes.
Because so many shows are taken to Edinburgh and they're there and
Yes.
they're that. And they might be very similar at the end of their run as they are at the beginning, whereas this, I think, is going to organically develop and feel, and things will go in and things
Yes,
will go out.
very much so, I think.
How do you envisage that happening? It can't just be the day-to-day relationship with a different audience every night.
Well, I
Or
think
can it?
I think it'll be what works, obviously. I mean, because what one is seeking to do, obviously, is to engage people and get them thinking, but also to entertain them. And in order to make sure that that mix works, it will need pulling about a bit. And we will notice where people are starting to get a bit jiggy on the seats and things. I mean, think of all the musicals that have been developed out of town, and songs taken out and songs put in. And really,
I need a song about a tap dancing nun by tomorrow.
Let's see what I can do. But so it's in that grand tradition, I suppose, that you see what works. You have a framework. The framework is very pliable, in the sense that if you've got the songs, then that is the bit that's kind of like the set piece, and it's envisaged that those will be set pieces. So I'm not sure, unless something proves catastrophic, that we would take a song out. But the way that the song is introduced, or where it comes in the show, I think is up for grabs. Or taking a bit out of it, extending the middle eight, rearranging, sort of having it sung by a man rather than a woman. All of those things are definitely, sort of a movable feast.
Have you ever had that? Have you ever found a song that works brilliantly in one context, but then just by doing something totally differently, it gives you a whole new set of meaning sometimes you hadn't realised was there?
Yes, yes, I'm sure.
Is there a cabaret in singing one song in 37 different styles in order to... That's next year.
Richard Stilgoe did one with notes, didn't he? He did a whole sequence. I don't know if it was a whole show, but it was certainly a long sequence showing how the first 4 notes or first 3 notes of a song could be made into any number of different songs, and he showed the whole ones that began with those 3 notes, and that was very brilliant, as Richard Stilgoe is,
yes.
but very, very clever, and also showed that you could use those 3 notes in a major context, a minor context, brilliant.
And in a equally comic way, I expect you've even got people like Victor Borge,
yes,
who would, just the way he links songs together. I think there's a wonderful one that I can't remember how it starts, but it ends up with "Happy Birthday to You," and it takes you there by a trapdoor. Essentially, it seems the most natural movement in the world. Segue, flow. I'm listening to this. Oh my word! It's suddenly that.
Yes.
And that is a sign of someone. That's the skill of the arranger, I think, or being able to look at something sideways.
Yes.
You arrange your own things, don't you?
To a point. I've worked with some very clever arrangers. Obviously, Chris Brannock, who I worked with in Cabaret, who we call the Brannock Academy because of the delightful variety of instruments that he works with, has been an enormous inspiration in that field, because he brings a very individual percussion feel to things. So very often he introduces a percussion line that I hadn't thought of. Well, why would I? But when it comes to piano settings, I quite like those to be, the sort of the basis.
Yes. They're the foundation stone on which...
They are, because, the way a thing is harmonised, it's not just like singing the song. By putting different bass and chord underneath a note. In fact, I've been finding this with a couple of the songs that feature in Albion, that what sounds like a very simple phrase changes each time you use it because of the notes that you put underneath it. And therefore, if you took it out of context, you think, my word, this is really... Because it's only I believe is a case in point, because it's very much a straightforward, it's a very ritualistic kind of statement.
So repetition must be part of it.
But because you put different things underneath it, it actually it makes it... It changes it. And there's another thing in Persephone as well, where it's really a very simple tune of about 2 notes, and by taking it up maybe a third, then you take it down, then it changes it.
You can give a different resonance and a different reading.
You can. And so that piano part that part of the arranging is me. But then, you can pull things out of that, and John Jansen, who plays on Night Visitors, sort of took that and then ran with it. And when Chris puts in, sort of a cello line or something, then he sort of takes what's there and runs with it. So
it sounds a very rich series of instruments as well, by the sound of it. I mean,
yes,
it's quite varied.
Yes, I'm not sure that, because we don't want to in Edinburgh record or provide backing tracks, because I like the live thing. So we're going to have a live pianist.
Sukas and acoustic.
It will be acoustic. I like acoustic, actually. Though we had the magic piano last time, and that was really helpful because it meant that I could play
By
a
magic
lot.
piano, you mean the keyboard that allows lots of different instruments?
Well, no, I mean one that will play when I'm not playing it.
Oh.
So therefore I could step out, and we did think when I was doing that, well, we could have made, programmed in a more orchestral sound.
Oh, I see, right, yeah.
But we didn't. We chose not to. We chose to keep it as a piano, because even when I wasn't playing it, I had played it,
yes.
And therefore there was that kind of truth to it, I suppose. And so whatever the arrangements are in Edinburgh, they will be what we can do on stage, either with our voices or with whatever instruments are available that people can play it.
And you never know the acoustic till you get there in Edinburgh, because you really don't know what kind of venue you're in.
Well, last year, you see, where we were, they were sort of rebuilding the Gilded Balloon just below us or something. And so we went in with an intimate show, thinking it's a small space, won't need any mics. But suddenly, at 2:00 every afternoon when we were meant to be performing, somebody was kind of putting a ball through a wall or something. And it meant that, all the beautiful intimacy that we'd created was somehow, not going to be there for the audience.
You only need one external noise to lose the connection. If it's a close and intense connection between a series of performers or one performer and an audience. Yes, you're absolutely right.
So we found that we had to use, which we hadn't envisaged doing at all when we went up there, we had to run out and get some mics just to raise the level, to make sure that we could rise above that, and that if anything went on, sort of that was particularly loud, then...
Well, hopefully this time you will. Where are you in Edinburgh this year?
We're at Sea Aquila.
Oh, now tell us where that is. Sea is now a sprawling empire of venues all over the city.
It's on the Royal Mile, and it's a Masonic hall. We're in the temple of the Masonic Hall.
Oh, very good. Very good. Yes.
Very good provenance.
Yes. Well, and it won't fall down. Very solid building.
And who knows what building work will be going on around that, you see.
Yes.
So although I'm saying now...
Stone Masonic Hall.
who knows if we'll use mics or not, but I'd rather we didn't, and I'd rather it was as acoustic as possible.
Now, as one of the creators, bearing in mind this is a collation of some of your best bits, reimagined, re-envisaged, recontextualised, what has surprised you most of your own work?
Oh, golly.
And, it might be, actually, I listened to a song which I've not listened to for 15 years and I really liked it all over again. Or it might be that, actually, I realise if I play this one with this kind of backing, it sounds totally different. Or it could be that, gosh, how similar or different the context of this now is, and yet it still speaks in some way. Maybe just not with the voice originally envisaged. I've given you 3 options.
You have
plenty of time to think.
Yes. I think I will feel more, because at the moment we haven't even gone into rehearsal. I've still just been conceiving, sort of which verses which we're going to use. I suppose the thing which is pleasing is that I think that there is some kind of thread through it that is particular, that is identifiable, that they do all come out of the same bag, that there are...
The Casson voice.
I would hope that was what it was, yes. That even if I've written something a long time ago, I can see in that, sort of elements of what comes out more recently. And that's a good thing, I think. And means also that what we'll have, that although it has been pulled from a number of different sources, it should have a sense of unity about it.
Did that also tell you anything about yourself? The fact that you can hear your creativity as a pure line, as a golden thread throughout your own work, which isn't true of everyone.
It's pleasing because I think that it means that there is something that ties them all together, and that therefore, hopefully, they have something that is unique. that is something that is of them, that ties them all together, rather than being, which is always your fear when you write, a pale imitation of something you've heard that was really a lot better. And when you have ideas, you are always heavily influenced by what other things you like and what other things you've heard in the strangest ways. And the best kind of creations that one hears are things where you've drawn on those and gone a stage further.
Yes, they're not pale copies. They are merely building blocks in your own creativity to something
exactly
which is yours and not theirs.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a difficult step. It is a difficult step, but I think it's the step of a true artist over a hack. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm drawing you towards you're being a true artist.
Well, I'm certainly paid like a true artist.
Tell me, how is the garret? You need a bird to come along and pick out some jewels from a statue.
I do.
Which brings us on to The Happy Prince. Now, we'll talk a bit more about Albion Forlorn because, forgive me, this is a new piece and it's... I'm looking forward to it immensely, but we haven't finished with last year's great Edinburgh hit for you, which was The Happy Prince, which then came down to London, and I saw you at the Bridewell Theatre, and it was excellent. I really wish I'd seen you in Edinburgh, because I only saw you in a cabaret rather than actually seeing the show, but I caught it in December, and it's been such a delight to me that I've been listening to it on and off ever since. It's on my iPod even today as we speak. And has been there not just because I put it on today. I have put it on about a month ago, and it's carried on in the round, and every night it comes up, and I delight in it. But it didn't stop last December, did it?
No.
It came into 2013.
It did.
And crossed the blue and briny sea.
To Dublin, yes, for the International Festival of Gay Theatre.
Now, people are going to say, the Festival of Gay Theatre? It's a family show, it's for all ages.
Very much what we felt when we were approached by the artistic director, Brian Merriman, who came to see the show in Edinburgh and came up to us afterwards and invited us to the festival there and then. And we were nonplussed.
Excellent.
But one of the things that Brian is very keen to stress about the Gay Theatre Festival is that it's inclusive. It needs to be inclusive, that there needs to be no sense that this is a sort of minority in society.
It's not a ghetto of theatre.
No. It's and there are aspects of gay theatre which obviously they have a place that is a smaller sort of ghetto, but the way that he programmed the festival over 2 weeks was in no means exclusively gay in the sense that the issues being tackled were gay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there were plays about relationships, there were plays about creating. I mean, there was another show from Edinburgh, I don't know if you saw it, the Francis Bacon show, because Francis Bacon's studio is over in Dublin.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he left it to the nation or something. I didn't quite understand it. But
he didn't operate in Ireland,
well,
did he?
He was born in Ireland.
Oh, really?
So that was there, and sort of had a wonderful platform there.
And we ought to say then, that if anyone who's saying, well, hang on a minute, what is it, even the vague gay link? It's Oscar Wilde, the author of The Happy Prince originally, isn't it?
Of course, yes, yeah.
Who falls into both being Irish and gay, which it sits very nicely, actually, when you think about it, into an Irish gay theatre festival.
Yes, but it was very revealing because Brian would talk at the beginning of our show on some evening, and certainly on the first evening, and I think possibly on the last evening, about the effect that Oscar Wilde had really on him as a gay man, being brought up in a society that was quite hostile.
Yes, it's been fairly conservative, hasn't it, for many years, Ireland,
extremely.
And really only liberalised very thoroughly in the last 20 years.
And he told this lovely story of his father reading him The Happy Prince, and him very much enjoying it, and his father saying, which he felt was rather cryptic at the time, there can't be much wrong with a man who can write like that.
Yes.
And I thought that was a lovely story, actually, because writing is not gay. It's not. Writing is writing. So
it's an output of human creativity.
Exactly.
Is it not? Yes.
And so I think that was the kind of feeling that he was trying to bring to the festival. And
good
we were very,
inclusivity,
very
isn't it?
happy to be part of that.
And you went down a Stormer, I would think.
Yes, it was very pleasing. It was a lovely theatre and a lovely atmosphere, and we had a great time.
And it was your Edinburgh cast, which is you and your family.
It was the Bridewell cast.
Oh,
But yes. So it was, me and the family, and Andrew Bolton playing our prince.
and how long did you run?
We did a week out of the 2 weeks.
And there are photographs on your website.
There are.
Which is English Cabaret.
Yes, www.
Yes, pop along and have a look at that
English
now.
Cabaret.
But so, how wonderful to have, because forgive me, it was The Happy Prince was its 20th anniversary revival almost.
It was,
That's
yes.
what it was, wasn't it?
Yes.
And so it went to Edinburgh, it came down to London, then it went on to Dublin.
Yes.
That's actually quite a good international tour already.
It was
3 countries.
very good. When we first started doing it, Tom had the idea that we would try and do what he called the Footsteps of Wild tour. He was very keen to sort of be where Wild had been, and we had a sort of pipe dream that we might go to America and do maybe the first 10 stops of his lecture tour.
Well, as long as you didn't die in a bedroom in Paris after complaining about the
No,
wallpaper.
but wouldn't it have been lovely to go to Paris?
Yes, it would.
You see, so that would have been great, but I mean that hasn't come to be. But we've done Dublin.
Yeah, that's pretty
and
good.
we've done London, and I don't know that he ever went to Edinburgh actually. But
Well, he
that
was a fool if he didn't.
it's the place he should have gone.
Yes. But as I say, and how pleasing that it's received such good reviews. I mean, it deserves them. In no way am I saying it doesn't deserve it, because I think it absolutely does. I was completely won over by. I was won over by just listening to the score, let alone, as you know, I heard
Very
3
kind.
songs for goodness sake, and I was completely entranced. But the fact that it was spotted by somebody at the Edinburgh Fringe, and then taken to Dublin, and you ran as a pre-Christmas show in London. I just think it's marvellous. But what now for the Happy Prince? How
Well-
can we keep him happy?
For the moment, it's resting. He's resting.
Yes.
And I don't know. We have sort of an idea that we might sort of bring him out again for festivals next year. He's a very good festival show because it's so compact. It's so easy to put up in almost any place.
In 10 minutes,
With,
which
exactly.
the Edinburgh experience.
Yes, 5 minutes in, 5 minutes out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would be very happy if we could bring it back again next year. But for the moment, we're concentrating on Albion.
But it could be licensed for other people's performances as well. I understand that's in the if
Yes.
people want to put it on,
Absolutely.
that is not impossible.
Not
they
at
should
all.
contact you via your website.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
No.
I hope there's going to be Happy Princes everywhere.
Well, it'd be delightful, wouldn't it? Yeah.
People should be doing it. There's going to be a royal child very shortly anyway, as we record this.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, what better way of celebrating the birth of a royal prince or princess than putting on Oscar Wilde's
Happy Prince.
Absolutely. Any time in the next 10 years. Which brings us back to Albion Forlorn, because that's the 2013 offering, shall we say,
Yes.
in Edinburgh. Now, we've been talking about it, and we've really been, I think, staying close to the theme of it being forlorn.
Yes.
And the myriad of opportunities that the forlorn, what that covers.
Yes.
But we do need to talk about, it isn't going to be a miserable show. There's a world of difference between being forlorn and being thoughtful and bittersweet, and there's a whole raft of different emotions, but miserable isn't necessarily one of them.
No, I mean, if you put it to one side,
Yeah.
that one of the most successful musicals of all time was Les Mis.
With the word in the title, for goodness sake.
Exactly, which got a slating from the critics, but what has been beloved. I know that the British public don't mind a bit of emotion,
Yeah.
but I mean, the idea
You
that
do have to
this-
dress up as a Frenchman. Now.
wouldn't that be lovely?
I just don't have the culottes.
I think that, within that, there are some very stirring, hopefully, melodies, but also some catchy tunes. I think
This is Albion Forlorn.
This is
yeah.
Albion. There are catchy tunes in Les Mis as well. But I think that what we're aiming to do is to entertain.
Yes.
We're aiming for people to have thoughts, to think about,
Form,
the
educate
issues.
and entertain, I believe, is the Reithian principle you seem to be struggling
Yes,
towards.
we are the BBC.
That's a very good thing to aspire to, if I may say.
So that's what we're hoping to do, is to just to have a thought-provoking, melodic hour in the theatre.
It will be a positive experience, and not a
Yes.
negative one. Although it will touch upon some sadnesses, that in itself is not a sad experience, is it?
No, well, I think it might be a self-examinatory experience, hopefully, a bit. I think that because we're all in the same boat, as we keep endlessly being told.
Yes, all in it together.
Some of us more than others. But I think that sense of experience, to explore that in an oblique way, might be hopefully quite cleansing and quite zeitgeist. That's what I'm hoping.
So you're the lemon-scented cleansing square of fringe events this year, if I may say. The after-dinner mint of delight.
Perhaps.
I'm really excited that you've got a show again, because, forgive me, I'm now a devotee of your work, and I tend to follow you. What's the word I'm looking for? Stalk. For as long as you're producing work. Now, how can people see it?
How can people see it? They can come to Edinburgh at the moment. We start on the 1st of August, and we're on each day at 6:20, apart from the 13th.
Yeah, which everyone needs a day off.
Everyone needs a day off. Last year we went to the zoo. I'm not sure we'll go there this time. The pandas were very disappointing.
Pandas just don't give enough, in my view.
Yes.
When does it finish?
It finishes on the 26th, on the bank holiday.
You are doing the whole run?
So we're doing the whole run.
Jolly good.
And we start on the 1st. So 26 shows. Is it 25 actually if you count the 13th, which is off? Don't come on the 13th. But otherwise we're at Sea Aquila on the Royal Mile at 6:20 every day.
And you can be found on your website, which is
www.englishcabaret.co.uk,
and on the Ed Fringe website, which is the generic Edinburgh Fringe listing.
Yes, website. And on Sea.
Their
Sea
own
Venues.
Sea Venues website, of course.
Yes. We have a page on Facebook, which we'll be posting regular images from. My daughter, Lily, is a keen photographer and is promising to do an image for every day that we're up in Edinburgh.
Oh, fantastic. But that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, so we're going to post that on our Facebook page. So if you like our Facebook page, then you will get that into your inbox.
Now, I've got to ask you this. What is most exciting you about the new show? And this, here we are, we're at the beginning of July as we record this. You haven't got up to Edinburgh, which I think you're doing in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes.
Get the lie of the land.
Yes,
mostly
exactly.
Hills. I've discovered.
Very craggy. It's exciting doing something that's so completely new and at the moment quite unpredictable. We know that we've got good components, but we don't know how the recipe is going to work out, and I think that is exciting. And a bit nerve-wracking as well.
It's one of the great things about Edinburgh is the organic nature of the shows. The good ones will develop a bit.
Yes.
And the shows like this Cabaret, where you are so dependent on the engagement with the audience, must and will and should develop as they go. If people go more than once, they will see a show that feels the same and feels very different at the same time. And that in itself is such a wonderful opportunity.
Yes. Well, I hope so. So that's what we're looking forward to. And hopefully coming out at the end of it with something that we're really pleased we've got to go on with.
Will you be recording it?
Not for the festival, I think. And in the past, we've tried to record. We did this with Requiem. We tried to record before we went up. And in fact, with Fringe constraints, your rehearsal period is so short that you end up recording when people are not as confident with it as they would be 2/3 of the way through the run. And also, it's probably you've got much better sense of it at the end of the show than at the beginning. And I'm not sure that you get the payoff now of producing a CD. One might have thought, well, wouldn't that be lovely to have a sort of extra source of income? But I think that people are quite reluctant to part with their money. Certainly, that's been my experience at Fringe.
And people don't buy CDs so much anymore.
No,
anyway.
exactly.
It's going out of fashion.
Exactly. So I think that when we do record it, which I hope very much we will, if it's a success, then we'll do it, sort of thoughtfully and making sure that it's absolutely the best representation of it that it can be.
However, you have allowed us to play one or two tunes from various life points of some of the songs from it.
Yes.
So this isn't a representation of what people will hear in the show, but it will give them a sense of one or two of the songs.
Yes, I hope so.
So thank you very much indeed for that. I'll finish with the final observation. I must say that, 20 years ago you were doing a show called Requiem.
Yes.
Now Albion is merely Forlorn. So actually, that over a 20-year path, things have got fractionally better. So I can see you're genuinely at heart really an optimist.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, well, I hope so. Yes. I mean, the Requiem was very much looking back on Thatcher and her legacy. which had just really passed over, just on the eve of Tony Blair coming in.
Yes.
In
so
1996.
Thatcherism was fading out as the major years came to an end.
Yes. And so this is the next step, really. What has her legacy been? What is the shadow that she's cast politically, and where has that left us?
Yes. And all the other extra legacies we've had on top.
Yeah, endless legacies.
Yes.
It's a legacy fest.
We haven't got a legacy to stand on that very painful note. Sue, as always, it's just huge fun talking to you. I wish you every success.
Thank you.
I'm going to add to that, at least by one ticket, because I shall certainly come and see it.
Splendid.
And I hope to have a chance to speak to you again afterwards. But
yes.
I'm looking forward to it now, and it's still 5 to 6 weeks away from me. So,
yes.
I'm buoyed up with the opportunity of seeing new Casson work.
Excellent. Well, I'm very pleased. I hope you like it.
This is no ordinary love song, but a collector's serenade. Here are the trophies of his romance, each object lovingly displayed. Admire their fine facade of beauty, each hides a secret only he can guess. This is no ordinary love song, but it's a love song nonetheless.
The wanting, the waiting, the anticipating, admiring, desiring, aspiring. Why I must look closer, caress it, touch it, possess it. I have to confess it. I'm lost like any lover in the essence, the story, the power, the glory, the mystery, the fire, the history entire. This is the collector's serenade.
This is no ordinary love song,
The waiting, the
but a collector's serenade.
Desiring, aspiring, why I must look closer,
Objects of desire, things he will acquire.
I have to confess it.
This is a different kind of love
The
song,
story, the power,
yet one
the
no
glory,
easier
the
to
mystery,
express.
the fire, the history
Call it no
entire.
ordinary
This is the
love
collector's serenade.
Musical talk. That was Sue Casson, and I always enjoy meeting her. I also had the pleasure of meeting Tom Blackmore before the recording, and he told me a little bit more about the show as well, which helped inform that discussion. I do hope you enjoyed it. And just now you heard another song from the show called Collector's Serenade, with Lawrence Taylor singing and Sue Casson and the Brannock Academy supporting. Well, how to see Albion Forlorn? I do hope you'll want to. I do hope you'll be able to. And once I've given you these instructions, there's nothing stopping you. It's called Albion Forlorn. It's on at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe between the 1st and the 26th of August, except not on the 13th. Everybody deserves a day off halfway through their run. And you can see it at the venue known as C. Aquila, Aquila, which is in the Roman Eagle Lodge in Johnson Terrace, and it's venue 21, very easy to find. The show's on every day at 6:20 in the evening, and it runs for 1 hour and 10 minutes. And if you want to find more about it, or perhaps hear some other songs by Sue Casson, you can go to her website. It's called englishcabaret.co.uk, and of course all the details are on the Ed Fringe website, and you can book tickets there as well. Well, my thanks to both Tom Blackmore and to Sue Casson for their time, and even more so for putting on this show, which I'm looking forward to immensely. I admire their work tremendously because it has a purity of line, a purity of melody, and a purity of voice, by which I mean it says something well, and it says something distinctively. Their work is never less than interesting. And perhaps I'll see you in the audience. I'm certainly going to be seeing it. Well, we close today with one final song by Sue Casson, which you'll be able to hear in Albion Forlorn, and I'm extremely grateful to her for letting us play some of these songs. This one's called The Curse, and it's Sue Casson accompanied by the Brannock Academy. Goodbye.
Now I've got my heart's desire. Life will never be the same. Everything I always dreamed of, nothing will feel this way again. No feeling deeper than this feeling. No high to match this matchless high. I have hit the feel-good ceiling. Can't recreate it, so don't try. So I've got my heart's desire, fulfilled my lifelong quest, kiss goodbye to fruitless striving, dust down the hopes, I've passed the test, crystallize this special moment, hold it as the dreams disperse. I got the one thing that I wanted, that's my curse. Now I've got my heart's desire. Life will never be the same. Endless monochrome and shadows. No need to play, I've won the game. No mountain higher than this mountain. No other peak that's worth the climb. How shall I fill the days before me? Pass the time, decline. To never get the thing you wish for, would that be a better fate? Half a life spent as a coder, or to know the true meaning of too late. Crystallize this special moment, I'll never know which fate is worse. I got the thing I always wanted, and it's over. That's my curse.
This episode of Musical Talk, edited and presented by Thos Ribbits. Copyright Musical Talk 2013, except for the songs, where the copyright persists with the creators.
And now Albion is even more forlorn as we hear some of the out-talks.
I was going to move on to The Happy Prince now and then come back to Albion. Is that all right?
Yeah, fine.
And then is there any more about Albion you'd like to say? Because, I've been, forgive me, I've been talking quite philosophically, but is there any
I know.
more?
Is it going to be boring?
No, it interests me, and that's the key. That's
Doesn't
what
it sound very intense and sort of, aren't people going to be turning off in their droves saying, my God, this sounds so...
Well, shall we ask that question when we come to it then, What makes this not... What stops this being a requiem?
Yes.
Right,
okay.
I'll come back to that question a bit
Okay.
later on, is that okay?
Okay.
I've also got a joke about trombones which I want to get in somewhere, so... yeah. When it happens, you'll know. Now, Tom said something very interesting before we started recording, which is this is a show that's not been written for Edinburgh. It's a show. I'm going to say that again because I said the wrong place. The one thing I really regret is I was going to ask you a question about, this is the trombone joke, I was going to ask you about...
I was going to say, where's the trombone joke?
Well, I wanted to ask you about the arrangements for Persephone.
Right.
I was rather hoping you were going to have Persephone 6 trombones, but it's awful. I died inside, which is probably why I didn't use it.
Yeah.